Hi, I'm Thomas Whitfield.
And I'm Justin Perez.
And this is Lunchbox Lessons, a podcast where we slowly over time pick apart our souls to try and figure out what it is that makes us tick about our obsessions.
And then I go, Tom, I agree with you.
And that makes me happy.
I've got a confession and I want to share it with you. I've learned a lot of lessons. I think maybe you'll learn some too. It's more like an obsession and I'm gonna force it on you.
Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Lunchbox Lessons. Today we are going to be going over episode 4 of Roseanne, language lessons. But before we get into all of that, I want to let you know that we are up on all of the platforms now, so you can find us anywhere, share us with your friends, like our stuff, rate it, review it, and you can also find us on YouTube, and you can find all of that information at lunchboxlessonspod.com. Justin, how you been?
Great. Nothing too exciting. My finger is still broken. I have this little like soft cast that was made for me at the doctor's office.
Was that 3D printed?
Yes. Well, no. It was just like a flat piece of I don't know, cast, and then it was cut from my hand.
Oh, okay. I mean, it looks like it could have been 3D printed.
No. It was like a flat thing. They cut it around my hand, and then she dipped it in like a hot water thing, and then it was molded around my hand. It's very boring, everything I'm saying right now, but it is fun.
Cool.
Yeah, and the finger's still broken, and I can't wear this stupid cast at work, so it's healing very slowly because I can't wear this cast enough.
Yeah, why are you not able to wear it at work?
Because my duties at my job require that I do not wear a cast in my hand, because I carry a firearm at my job as a court officer. I detain people sometimes. I just can't have a cast, you know.
Right, you have to have mobility.
Yeah, it's like a legal issue.
I had to get blood drawn this week. And I mean, I've gotten blood drawn like a ton of times. Not a big deal.
Yeah.
I don't love needles, but I'm not afraid of needles. You know, and I go, and she's like, right arm, left arm, like they usually do. So I'm like, oh, let's just left arm. Yeah. So she comes over.
Just once, I want to hear you say, from the dick.
Yeah, take the blood from the cock.
Yeah.
So she comes over, you know, to the left side, and puts the needle in, and it felt like lightning shoot down my forearm.
Oh my God, you've never had that response, right?
I've never had that response. So I let her just keep taking the blood, because I was like, okay, she's getting one vial, we're almost done.
Yeah.
Whatever. So she pulls the needle out. I could still feel it, and it felt like lightning. It felt like flames just kind of like shooting from where she put the needle in, like at the crease, all the way down my forearm. And she's like, okay, you're good to go. And I'm like, so my arm feels a little bit tingly. Like, this hasn't happened before when I've had blood drawn. Do I need to do anything? She goes, oh, as long as it's not severe pain, it's no big deal. So I'm like, okay. So I go back up to where all of the psych interns are, and I'm like telling them about it. They've never had it happen. So, you know, I get on Google, as a smart person does.
As someone with a doctorate, it's nice to know that your response is still to do the dumbest thing.
Oh man, absolutely. So then, of course, the first thing that I come across is that, you know, someone posting about how they got their blood drawn, then they had nerve damage, and now they have chronic pain. And I'm like, am I fucked? Like, am I going to have chronic pain in my left arm for the rest of my life now? And over the course of, I guess, the last week and a half, it started to go away, but there's still like phantom sort of like tingles that go down my arm. So I did more reading about it, and then I went and like talked to a phlebotomist, and they told me like, oh, you probably, like, she just nicked a nerve, not a big deal, like it's gonna heal up. But apparently if they nick a nerve, that's what it is that feels like, why someone might describe it as lightning, is because it feels like it's splitting off the way that nerves do.
Yeah. So that makes sense. It's literally like a touch sensation on a nerve, and that's what.
Yeah,
it sucks.
And I lead chronic pain groups for psychology. So there are like a lot of psych techniques that you can do to deal with pain if you have chronic pain. But these people having chronic pain would suck, like be terrible. So I was like freaking out about it. I'm like, oh my God, am I one of these people now that's going to have chronic pain in my left arm that this random thing happened? But like, I'm gonna be fine. I was being over dramatic, but it fucking sucked.
Are you a person who is hypochondriac about stuff?
No.
Okay. Do you think if you had chronic pain, you'd have to stop leading the group and then join the group, and then someone else would have to take over the group?
No.
I have to recuse myself that I am now suffering from chronic pain, so I can't lead this group intelligently anymore.
No, I think I could still do it.
Wow.
I would just have to practice a lot of the techniques that I talk about on my own as well.
Wow. And then you realize it's all bullshit.
No, not at all.
That'd be great if you're like, wow, and now I realize the frustration these people have.
No, I mean, I'm constantly doing like cognitive behavioral therapy stuff on myself when I notice that I'm having some sort of an emotional reaction to something that I'm not comfortable with or want to know more about or want to stop.
Yeah.
I'm like always kind of breaking that stuff down and doing my own therapy on myself.
Okay. Like, what do you do? Like, what are some stuff you do?
So I might have times where I notice that I am ruminating or thinking a lot about an event that maybe I have no control over, and then I'll start to notice that I'm getting like frustrated or angry about the event.
Mm-hmm.
And I will kind of be like, okay, Thomas, let's take a deep breath. Let's change our focus onto something else. There's nothing you can do about this event right now, and continuing to put more focus on it is not going to change it, and you're not going to like have a different outcome from it.
Yeah.
So let's focus on something else. And I've done this for so long that I'm able to do it really quickly. But I mean, it's definitely a muscle that you have to work on and develop, because it's not easy to just switch your focus.
It's not easy to tell your brain the very logical thing of like, I should obsess over this because it's very important. It's not easy to be like, actually that impulse is kind of detrimental to yourself right now, so ignore it and move forward.
Yeah, because so often we end up like thinking about these things over and over and over and over again, but coming to no new conclusion, just like getting ourselves upset.
Mm-hmm. You've written the pros and cons like 30 times already, and it's just ruminating backwards and forwards the same. Like, I feel like you probably did this for your dissertation, like when you had to explain your dissertation, right?
I am not even in a place in my life where I want to speak about my dissertation. It is not far enough away that I feel removed from it yet.
Okay, fair enough. Perhaps in a few years when we're doing season 7 of Mad Men, we can finally break it apart.
I can go through some trauma therapy relating back to it. So what have you been kind of obsessed with?
What have I been obsessed with? I've been obsessed with a series of videos of people doing very bad covers of things on YouTube. I discovered a boy. That sounds weird. I discovered a man. I believe he's a man. He looks really young. And he does trombone covers of songs. Not particularly well. As someone who used to play the trombone in high school. And they're not particularly great, but he has like, I want to say like he has like 60 covers of songs. Like Let It Snow. He has All Star by Smash Mouth. Like it's all over the place.
Can you play one of these for
us?
us?
I would love to. I was trying to pull it up before, but YouTube is bizarre.
Are they supposed to be bad?
No,
or are they supposed
they're
to be
earnest.
good?
They're very earnest. I like earnest things. I stumbled on this because a long time ago I stumbled on like 2 or 3 covers of Big Bopper. Hey, sweet, the Big Bopper. You want to do what? With who? Like Chantilly Lace. Do you know that song?
No.
Chantilly Lace with the pretty face.
Oh yeah, that one.
Yeah, that song. Well,
No,
that song
no
is the only hit by the Big Bopper, and it starts off with him having a fictional phone call, and on stage in like the 60s when he would perform the song, he would, or 50s, whatever it was, he'd literally pull out a phone and have a conversation with himself going, you're wearing what? You want to do what with me? Well, it's the Big Bopper, baby.
You know, that sounds exactly like Let's Have a Kiki, the Scissor Sisters.
Yes. Well, I'm sure
It starts off with a phone call and then
fictional phone call.
Yeah.
Well, it's definitely from the Big Bopper because that's the only that time I remember a man having a prop on stage, and he did it every single time. It's so funny. So I stumbled upon that, and I became obsessed with listening to bad covers of popular songs. Let's see if I can find one. I don't know why I didn't just Google it. Have you ever stumbled upon a bad cover of something?
I don't listen to a lot of covers.
Mm-hmm.
At all. So I don't ever go on YouTube and like look for covers of songs. I'm a little bit nervous though about like how bad it's gonna be.
It's not bad. It's just not good, you know. This is Hey Soul Sister by Train.
How many subscribers does this guy have?
Actually a lot.
Like 2 million?
A lot more than you'd think for what it is.
Okay, 293.
Which is a lot, considering what he's doing. Let's give him a shout out. Adam Genez, Genez. He's just an earnest boy playing trombone. There's a lot of videos here.
And is he just playing that with the like track playing
Like
in the
the
background?
karaoke track in the background,
Okay.
seems like.
Well, you know what? Good for Adam.
Is it?
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it's something. Can you describe this boy's face and appearance?
He looks like Mark Zuckerberg. Like a little bit more attractive than Mark Zuckerberg.
Ooh, okay.
And I'm not sure why he is wearing iPods.
Oh, like AirPods.
Yeah. Because isn't the music just playing from whatever? So I'm not sure what that's about. Maybe it's like so he can hear himself. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, he's putting in a lot of effort. He's not unattractive. Like, I don't know. I kind of want to fuck.
Oh, boy. So check him out, guys.
dedicated.
For some reason, I'm obsessed with him, and I hope he gets more subscribers. I don't know. Tom, what have you been obsessed with?
I have been obsessed with my seasonal affective disorder.
Oh, yeah.
It is finally starting to go away.
Yeah, it's staying lighter later.
Yeah.
That's usually when it kicks in, because it's 5 o'clock, it's pitch black dark, it's really...
I hate that.
Yeah, it really fucks me up, too.
So this happens for me almost every year in the wintertime. Like, I get sort of depressed.
Yeah.
Like, I lose interest in things that I care about. I'm more tired. It's really difficult for me to get to the gym after work, which it isn't in the summertime. I eat shittier food.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, the winter is really difficult for me, but it is finally starting to get better.
Yeah. I feel like the things that you've described, like eating well, going to the gym, I feel like they have more importance to you. Maybe because you're a gay man.
It might have to do with me being a gay man. Absolutely.
Because I feel like that's like kind of in my head, but I don't have the competitiveness that you have in that world.
I mean, I am very competitive, period.
Yeah.
In everything. Like, you know, I'm a
Yes.
little bit of a control freak. You've driven in a car with me where I'm giving
yeah.
you directions and I don't know where we're going. I'm reading the same GPS as you are and I'm telling you when you need to turn. Like, it's
That's
ridiculous.
my favorite thing. You were telling me to turn as the computer voice tells me when to turn too, and I'm like, Thomas, just look at the floor and let the computer bring me to the place.
I know. I'm like, did you hear the computer? The computer said you have to turn left. Like, you've never turned left.
Yeah,
Well, you don't live in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm kind of competitive in general, but I do think that within gay culture, there is more competitiveness there about, you know, what your body looks like.
Yeah.
And but I've also worked out consistently since I was 16 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So for me to not go to the gym is more difficult for me than to go to the gym.
Yes.
So I still like eat pretty healthy. I still go to the gym. Like, I still do all the stuff that I need to do when I get down in the wintertime. But I can just tell that like my interest in things, like not getting as much pleasure from things. And then just, I would say the last like week and a half, it's just lifted. And I'm like, thank God.
That's good to know. What do you think is the tribute to this change?
I think that it's the more sun.
Yeah.
Honestly, I really think that it has to do with there being more sun.
It's that simple, just sunlight.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen one of those things where it's like a lamp that?
Yeah, I
sort
used
of
to
like
use one.
recreates the sun.
Yeah, and I used to use one, and I haven't in a long time, and I probably should, but I'm like in and out. I'm just like in a lot of different offices throughout the day, working with different clients, so I'm never really in the same spot for more than like 20 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
And I like it'd be weird probably for me to have a sad lamp while I'm with a client.
A sad boy lamp, yeah.
Like while I'm with a client talking about this is let's work on your depression. So that would be weird.
This is a thing with the therapists I've had. I've never noticed weakness in terms of like they don't ever speak of their weakness or like their vulnerability. And I think, is that a thing or is that just the people I've had?
I think it depends on the therapist. So one thing that you're trained to do is sort of make a conscious decision about when you are and are not going to disclose anything about yourself.
Yeah.
And there are times where I've said to clients, like, I can really relate with that X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
But it really varies because some clients it's fine, and other clients you can tell like they don't care.
Yeah. They're like, back to me.
Yeah, exactly, which I also understand.
Me.
So there are certain clients that like you sometimes want to, because there's so much stigma around mental health that some clients need to hear that like what they're going through sucks and that you have been there too.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people that come to a therapist just assume that like the therapist has it all together, and like they're still normal people.
Yeah, there's a reason they got into therapy to begin with.
Yeah, like they struggle with shit just like anybody else.
Yeah, it's not like some superhero story where they got bitten by a depressive spider.
Right.
That's how they became a therapist.
Yeah.
It's usually because it's like a fascination with it and sort of a thing of like, they're working through their own shit too and then they find it interesting.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's how it worked for me.
Yeah, interesting. I sort of want to get back to this because I want people to understand who are not from New York City that the world, like once you choose to be a person in shape who's gay, I feel like that's like a different world altogether. You know what I mean? Well, you know what I mean more than I know what I mean, but is there something to that? Like, because from my friends I've noticed, like once you decide to be like, I'm a gay dude who's in shape, then it's like, this has to be kept up. Otherwise you go to
like
a different category.
Identity.
Yeah.
So within the gay community, there are definitely a lot of different categories that people want to fit into or don't want to fit into, and being someone who is in shape is, there are various categories within that. Are you a muscle daddy? Are you a jock? Are you...
Muscle daddy, I like that. That sounds fun.
It is, can be. There are a lot of these different variations, and actually some of the research that I've published has had to do with body image within the gay community. And what I actually think is going on is, I think a lot of young people who do not live in metropolitan areas see their first gay person in porn.
Yeah.
Like, it's a little bit different now because there are so many different gay people on TV and they're represented in like CW shows and whatnot. And all of those people are, unrealistically attractive. However, they're not like ripped up, muscly jock guys. But if you look at porn, the majority of people that are in like heavily funded pornography are these unattainably attractive people.
Yeah.
In general, overall, making a very broad statement. Like, obviously, the porn industry is huge and there's a lot of variety and blah, blah, blah. But, like, the majority of people in fashion magazines are pretty. Yeah. The majority of people in pornography have unrealistically nice bodies.
Yeah.
And especially in gay porn. And I think that a lot of young people, that is their first kind of like exposure to gay sex, to gay people. So you get these expectations of what sex is supposed to be like.
And what it's supposed to look like by the people who do it.
What people are supposed to look like.
Yeah.
So there is a social comparison theory, which essentially states that we determine who we are based on the people around us. And we make comparisons of who we are and what we're supposed to be based on the people around us. So if you are a gay kid living in middle of America, or middle of Illinois, like the Connors, and there are not a lot of other gay people around you, you're going to look to see like, okay, do I fit in with this crowd or not fit in with this crowd? And if I want to fit in with this crowd, what do I need to do to fit in? So if the first place you look is pornography, you're going to think, that's what gay people look like. That's how gay people act. If I want to fit in with gay people, this is what I need to look like, and this is how I need to act.
This is sort of the way I sort of get into this culture. This is sort of, I have like this affectation with my voice, or I do this. That's sort of like a thing that's sort of to fit in with the group. I mean, every group has the same sort of thing of like, I need to fit in, so I'm going to do this.
Yeah, but if you are heterosexual, like you might look around you in your hometown and see 5,000 different variations of what a heterosexual male looks like or female looks like. Whereas if you're gay, you might be like, I'm out of group from these people who are the people that I look like.
How would you categorize your gym?
My gym?
Like, no, not your gym, I'm sorry. Like
Planet Fitness?
No.
Gross. Yeah. Smelly?
How would you categorize your, you said there's like a muscle daddy, like what would you say you are?
I have no idea. At this point, I would just say I'm average.
Wow. Ladies, take a good look at this. This is average in the gay world. In the straight world, this is like, wow, he's ripped.
Yeah, like my body fat is probably like 16-17%.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, eh.
That's 3% straight.
I mean, there is
in gay, that's 40% body fat.
There's a difference.
Yeah.
But I'm also like, I'm 35. Like, what am I supposed to look like? I don't know. It's fucked up. What are any of us supposed to look like?
Yeah.
So anyway,
let's segue to Roseanne.
Well, I do want to go back.
Sure.
Part of the reason that I knew that I was over my seasonal affect disorder getting over is because I got back into Resident Evil 2, which I mentioned previously.
A very dark horror video game. Yeah.
Totally. But I had wanted to play it, but my interest level and the pleasure that I was getting from playing went up.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, my seasonal affective disorder is starting to go away. And then I last weekend I had free time on a Saturday, and I think I played it for 7 hours, which is really out of not something I usually do at all. And beat the game, and was kind of sad that I finished it. But that was also a big indication to me that I was I'm really enjoying playing this game. I have more interest in playing it. I think my sad is going away.
Usually it's the opposite for people. If I spend 7 hours playing video games, sometimes I might be like, wow, I'm in a dark place. But sometimes you're like, you know what? This is it's living life.
So let's take a quick break.
Yeah.
And then we will come back and jump into Season 1, Episode 4, Language Lessons of Roseanne. Guys, welcome back. So, Season 1, Episode 4 of Roseanne, Language Lessons originally aired November 22nd, 1988. So I'm going to give a brief synopsis and then we'll jump in. So it's a Saturday afternoon, seems like an average Saturday. Dan has been out of work for 2 weeks and is waiting for a phone call about a potential job offer. He's making his famous 4-star chili and finds out Jackie is coming over and makes it clear to Roseanne that he's getting frustrated with her being around so much. Jackie arrives and announces she's doing laundry, eating dinner with them, and spending the night. Roseanne finds herself in the middle of their argument and forces them to work it out. Meanwhile, Becky is obsessed with a teen beauty magazine, and Darlene is working on a school project so she can pass Crane the Pain's history class. So coming back to Crane the Pain, that we met in the very first episode.
The one who called her out for barking like a dog.
Yep, our whole family barks.
So that's the episode. All right, well, let's get into it. A couple things I noticed. I thought it was really interesting that in this episode, this is a thing that I think is in middle to lower class, and it's probably absent from upper middle class and above. I think doing your homework in front of your parents, having your parents help out is a thing, and then it probably disappears if your parents work too much.
Yeah,
there's probably this thing of the very rich and the very poor. There's no help with homework. But that's an assumption. I don't actually know that because I've never been very poor nor very rich. So
yeah, I've always been really middle class too. I don't remember getting a lot of homework help ever.
Oh, you never really got homework help?
Yeah, or help with my homework.
Did they ever get on you about it?
I didn't do poorly in school. I think there were a couple times that I got a C, but for the most part there were A's and B's. And I was the youngest.
Yeah.
You were the only kid. I was the youngest.
Okay.
So by the time I was going through, my parents were like, fuck it, he's going to be fine.
Yeah, even if we do nothing, as long as, this environment alone will make him do fine.
And it seems like Dan and Roseanne have kind of accepted that Darlene is not going to do great in school.
Yeah, they do kind of accept it. They're just like, hey, All right, well, I'm not going to give you the speech again.
Yeah, there's this real cool exchange. So Darlene is working on putting together a castle made out of like wooden sticks.
Popsicles.
Yeah, popsicle sticks. And because she's going to fail her history class book, Crane the Pain said that if she does this extra credit assignment, does okay on the next test, that she can pass. So Roseanne is just like, okay, well, I'm going to let you get back to work. And Darlene's like, what, are you not going to tell me about how I have to do this, how I need to take care of myself, whatever it is? And she's like, do you need me to give you that speech again? And I just thought that it was a really interesting sort of take on it, because I think that's what most parents kind of do. Like, they give the speech once, and then, like, I'm not going to do this again. Like, either you're going to do it or not do it. You need to figure it out for yourself.
Yeah. Like, eventually you're going to do this. There's nothing I can really say or do, because it's kind of on your, like, this is on you.
From a psychology perspective, I do see parents for therapy, though, and some of them have been like obsessed with what their kids are doing, and it can be really frustrating as a therapist, because I'm like, they'll tell me about things that their kids are doing, and I'm like, that's not that big of a deal. Like, what you're describing, I can understand why maybe you don't love it, but your kid is not stealing batteries. Your kid is.
It's from a callback from a prior episode, and I was caught stealing batteries.
But even if a kid was stealing batteries, like, that might happen, and they treat it like it's, you know, an atomic bomb has gone off, or like they catch their kid making out with someone, and, you know, what am I supposed to do about this? I'm like, your kid is 15 and 16 and they're making out with someone. Like, I don't know. Be happy that that they have like some sort of social skills that they can get someone to make out with them. They're not stealing cars, they're not making meth, but they kind of approach it as though
it's the same sort of thing. I thought it was just good writing in general, because bad writing would have been the speech, I think.
And it does kind of come back to that, because DJ is helping Darlene, and then DJ falls on it, breaks it. Darlene freaks out, and then Roseanne comes in and she's like, why are you freaking out at him? And Darlene's like, I'm gonna fail because of him. And Roseanne's like, if I had goofed off all semester and then I had to do this and waited until the last minute, I'd be looking for someone else to blame.
That was, to me, that's really good writing of like, it's like bad improv, or it's like great improv. They always say like, be at the top of your intelligence. And so when Darlene says like, it's his fault, I'm gonna fail, actually the bigger thing, if you zoom out, is you goofing around, so that you have to do this emergency project, and if you fail, it's because you goofed around. And like, I think the show does that a lot. It will sort of always find the most intelligent way to sort of criticize each other and get to the truth of the matter. And the truth of the matter is Darlene is dumb, or not dumb. She's just lazy about her work or something. I don't know if she doesn't. I don't think anybody in the show is particularly dumb. I just think she's lazy or whatever about schoolwork, which, you know, been their sister.
Yeah, I mean, she is the middle child of a family that doesn't have a lot of money, probably doesn't like get a lot of attention, and is goofing off in school. I don't know, when I was younger, I was a big goof in school for sure. Like, I was getting in trouble all the time for not shutting my mouth.
Did you ever win a superlative in high school?
I don't know what a fucking superlative is.
You really don't?
I don't have any idea what that means.
Do you know what the word means?
I don't think so.
Wow, this is exciting.
Is it?
I don't like it. Is a little bit more smarter than the doctor. A superlative is like it's an adjective, and it's just
which is no,
which I don't know. But they would give it to like best dressed, funniest, like one of those categories in high school.
So I did get those in high school. Yes.
What'd you get?
I don't remember. Oh, I got voted most likely to leave town and never come back.
Correct. They were correct.
There were I think 3 of them that I got my senior year. I got a bunch of
3?
Yeah, I got 3.
I won 2 one year, because it happened in 8th grade and senior year of high school, and I forget which one, but I remember winning 2, and I had to choose one because they wanted to spread the wealth. I won funniest and most dramatic. But most dramatic meaning like actor, not like, oh, don't get me started, you know, like, not like that. It's just like, I mean, both were saying that I was gay, but it was nice to know that that I got to choose one and choose my own destiny.
Yeah, I don't remember what the other 2 were. I was also on homecoming court my senior year. I was like,
oh, it's just like a court in general, like 4 or 5 people. Or
yeah, exactly. and it was weird because I had been really unpopular growing up and made fun of a lot. And then I started working out.
Oh yeah.
My freshman year, and
you realized that it was just superficial, and
yeah,
and that was the thing, because your personality was probably exactly the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe with like a little bit more confidence, but
yeah, probably.
Oh God, isn't that gross?
And then I got popular and literally went from getting food thrown at me in the lunchroom to then being on homecoming court.
To throwing up that food 1 year later. You used to open your mouth to catch the food, and now you're
there was a
spitting it
point
out.
when I was in high school where I wanted to gain muscle so much that I was waking up at night, setting an alarm at night to wake up and like drink a protein shake or eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and go back to bed. I like definitely had some
you're right there.
Body issues. I don't know if it came from porn, but maybe.
I don't know. Those are the type of body issues I'd like to have right now.
Well, we can work on that in therapy. How can I give you an eating disorder? So one of the things that also comes up is so Dan is again out of work, waiting on a phone call. Yeah. So again, we're seeing this like living paycheck to paycheck. He's waiting on this call from Dwight, who is a character that comes up again, kind of a name that gets mentioned.
Have you ever seen him ever?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so you eventually see Dwight. But again, we're given this idea that like Dan is waiting on this phone call, hoping to get work. I think they say that he's been out of work for 2 weeks. He's just been moping around the house. And now he's making his chili, which he apparently loves. And it becomes sort of, it's almost like this is the thing that he loves that he can kind of offer to the family right now because he's out of work.
I can't provide for the family, but I can provide great chili.
Yeah.
And then his son tries it and it sucks.
So it becomes sort of a running joke.
So bland, yeah.
Yeah. So Jackie comes over, and Dan's big thing is like Roseanne says Jackie's coming over, and he's like, why? She's here every weekend. And she's like, well, it's Saturday. And they have this great exchange where Roseanne says, when you married me, you knew I had a sister. And Dan says, well, I didn't think she'd be here every weekend. And Roseanne says, hell, I didn't think I'd be here every weekend. Makes me laugh every time. I've probably seen this episode, I don't know, 20 times.
Oh my God.
And it makes me laugh every single time.
20 times. I don't think there's a single sitcom episode that I've seen 20 times. Of anything. I've seen a lot of sitcoms. I don't think there's one episode. That's incredible.
There are various Roseanne episodes that I've seen 20 times. There are also a handful of them that I've seen once because I do not like it. Yeah. So Jackie shows up, and not only does Jackie just like show up, she's like, I'm doing laundry. I'm staying overnight. And then she tries Dan's chili and tells him that it's bland.
Yeah.
And Dan seems kind of annoyed about it and just starts making all these comments about like, why are you here? Like maybe you should leave, sort of like taking some jabs without flat out saying, I don't want you to be here.
Yeah, get out. Go ahead.
So, why am I just lost my spot here for things I wanted to say. So then it kind of goes back through like later in the day, and it cuts to Jackie being on the phone in the kitchen, and she's kind of propped up in a doorway. So when you were growing up, I'm sure you had phones that were connected to the wall.
At one point, yeah, and then at one point, those just disappeared. There was a time when I was young, but by the time I was using phones, we had cordless phones, which were so cool.
I don't know if they ever have a cordless phone in this show. Maybe in the later
They have to.
seasons.
After a while, it works for a sitcom because it keeps someone tethered to the room and it has people interact with them. So it's kind of a beautiful device.
And that's exactly what happens in this scene. So Jackie is standing by where the phone connects. And of course, it's one of those like phone cords that unravel.
Coiled,
so you see all the coils connected together. She's got her leg up on the wall.
And they don't have call waiting, which is another device of like, this causes conflict. Whereas like call waiting was either cheap or like free after a while because it's nothing.
Well, I remember when it first came out, though, it was like $4.99 a month or something, and my parents were like, we're not paying for that. Absolutely. And then caller ID was like another $4.99 a month.
And then now it's just a standard thing on everything.
Yeah.
Like imagine your cell phone you have to pay to get another call. Like how fucking insane is
that? I'd be like, no one needs to be calling me anyway.
Yeah, fuck it. Get rid of the phone device on it while we're at it.
I don't even use my phone to make voice calls. Hardly ever.
To make voice calls. You sound like a robot.
Make voice calls.
I am human. I'm making voice calls.
So Jackie is propped up there. Dan comes in and he's like, Jackie, get off the phone, because he's waiting to get that call back about the job.
He's waiting for luck to give him a job, essentially.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of the employment is, just like pure luck, or like just a connection for some reason.
And Jackie's like, Dan, you know what your problem is? Which becomes her tagline for this episode, is saying, you know what your problem is.
People love it when you say that.
Oh my god.
If you ever want to resolve like a tension between someone, just tell them what their problem is.
And this becomes a very Jackie thing throughout the entire series. I don't know if she ever comes back and says again, like, you know what your problem is, but she does always think that, like, she knows the answer.
Yeah.
She has it all together.
No one knows the answer.
And if everyone would just listen to her.
Yeah.
So she gets off the phone, and then Becky comes in, and they want to do a quiz from a teenage beauty magazine.
Yeah. A Cosmo style quiz.
Yeah. You didn't grow up with these magazines.
Oh, I did.
You did.
I mean, I didn't have them, but I was friends with girls, and I grew up in like a neighborhood where all the kids hung out together, like a series of townhouses, and that shit was everywhere.
My sisters had them all the time.
Some of it was filthy. I remember like looking back of like how to please your man, and it was like because they were like stealing their mom's Cosmos, and Cosmo was always like a very like raunchy type, not raunchy, but for a 15-year-old it was like, you know, be sure to tickle his testicles and really look him in the eye when you kiss him or something. Like I remember being like, oh wow, this is the old testicle tickle, huh?
I remember what I'd give for it now. I remember my sisters getting in trouble because I think they used to read Marie Claire.
Marie Claire is so lame now.
Is it? I think at the time it was one of them that was like a step up from maybe like 17.
Yeah, 17.
I remember 17 being really big, and I think Marie Claire would have been like 20. I don't know.
Yeah.
And my sisters used to get it delivered, and then they got it like left it at my grandparents' house one day or something, and my grandpa like flipped through it and saw some bare man's butt and was pissed.
Yeah.
And it was like some ad for a cologne, which is always funny. Like, I don't know why these ads for colognes are always naked people. I mean, I guess the innuendo is that like if you wear this cologne, people are gonna have sex with you. But my mom was pissed and made them like cancel the subscription, and she like called and yelled at the magazine company, and
because it like Antonio Sabato Jr.'s butt was on.
Yeah, like something ridiculous like that.
Yeah.
But I do think that there were all these like quizzes or articles about like how to please your man and crap. So they come in with this magazine and want Dan and Roseanne to learn how to communicate without speaking. So ask them to like sit and stare at each other. Which, in all fairness, I've done stuff like this with clients. Not with a client where I'm like, stare at me.
Yeah.
But, you know,
like a married couple or something you would do.
Right, like I've done self-help shit where you like sit across from someone. I have a great Alanis Morissette story about that. So I went to Esalen, which is in California.
What is Esalen?
Esalen is like a...
Is it a font?
So I went to this font in California.
Yeah, cool.
So it is, it's in Big Sur, California, and it's on like this bluff looking over the ocean. There are natural like hot springs that are like clothing optional. There's no like internet, except for a couple hours during the day they turn it on, but like you can't get cell phone service. All of the food that's eaten there is actually grown there. And Alanis Morissette did a retreat for like a 3 or 4 day retreat called Hurtling Towards Wholeness. And I was like,
how is wholeness spelled?
It wasn't a gay retreat.
Oh no, it could have been a lesbian retreat.
So it was led by her and 3 other people. And she during the day would do all this psych education stuff from like 8 or 9 a.m. until noon, and then the afternoons you had like a different person leading a different experience. And so you were broken into 3 different
Was
groups.
this like a punishment that you were sent on?
No, I was so excited. I paid like the $1,000. I flew to California. Like,
this sounds like a nightmare to me.
Yeah. So it was awesome. I loved it.
Wow.
It was an amazing experience. There were 90 to 100 of us there. So it wasn't like a ton of people. We were just in this like huge tent hut type thing with Alanis Morissette, whom I'm obsessed with.
Yeah.
Up there, speaking. And she was just like hanging out and would be walking around. She stayed in like this house with her like husband and kid and stuff for a vast majority of it. She didn't like
her husband, the white rapper.
Yeah, so I. And some of the work that we did was called dark shadow work or shadow work, and it was from I can't think of the person's name now. Debbie Ford started it, and she actually ended up dying of cancer. I believe breast cancer, but I could be wrong on that. But so it's the third day of the retreat. This guy, Justin Hilton, is leading this work. He used to work with Debbie Ford. So this was in the afternoon. And there were about 20 of us in this room working with him. Alanis was not there. We were given these forms to fill out like with a partner. So I was sitting with someone who I'd become friends with over the last few days. And you basically had to go through and write down all of the negative or unhelpful thoughts that you had in your head. And these are considered to be like your dark shadows. They kind of like follow you along and give you these like negative thoughts that you don't need. And you're supposed to like identify whose voice they are. And so a lot of mine were like things that my dad had said to me.
Oh, wow.
Like,
yeah.
Like, you're not good enough. You're not the son I wanted you to be.
Yeah, the hits.
Or, the hits.
He was playing all the hits.
All the greatest hits that you're kind of tired of, but can't stop listening to.
Yeah.
So I just had this list of maybe 25 things that were like my deepest, darkest, most negative things that I have ever thought about myself.
Uh-huh.
And then you sit with the person that you worked on the list with, and you tell them to the other person, and they are supposed to, they just say thank you. So no matter what you say, they say thank you.
So let's try one.
Oh my god, I can't.
I mean, choose an easy one. You don't have to choose the darkest one.
You're not the son I wanted you to be.
Thank you.
So, exactly. But the point is to just, like, you're looking at the person, you're making contact, you're telling them these things, and they're just saying, like, thank you. Like, thank you for sharing that with me.
Thank you.
So then we stand up, they mix us into different groups, and then Alanis walks in, because she's just, like, kind of walking around, like, checking out, seeing how the groups are going. And Justin, leading the group, is like, okay, so I'm going to put you guys in groups of 3. So this time, you are going to sit there. One of you is going to be on the spot. And then the 3 people sitting across from you are going to repeat back to you what you say. So if I were to say to you, you're not the son I wanted you to be, you would say back to me, you're not the son I wanted you to be. So it's like you're hearing 3 people say these things back to you. And you're supposed to repeat it back to them until something sort of like switches in your gut to where it doesn't feel the same as it used to. So when I had to say that particular phrase, I was like almost in tears.
Yeah.
And then at the end of this exercise, I was like laughing about it. And now anytime that I have that thought, the association now is sort of laughing at it. It worked very odd. So they put us into these groups. And we sit down, so there's 3 people across from me, and then I'm the person that's starting out, so the person that's on the spot. Because anything that scares me, I'm like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah, let's be the first one, rip off the Band-Aid.
And then Alanis walks over to her group and goes, I'm going to be with this group, and sits down across from me.
Yes.
Like, as far as you are from me now.
Wow.
Like 1.5 feet. And this is someone who I've met like 10 times in person, that I've loved since I was, I don't know, 16.
Is there any recognition in the eyes?
They're like this. So this was 4 years ago, 5 years ago. I have met her previous times where she did know my name at one point, because I've met her like 12 times.
Yeah.
And I've seen her in concert, I don't know, like 60. Like that's another
You've seen her
episode
60
in itself.
times?
Yeah.
Holy shit. I wouldn't even think she's performed 60 times.
Oh my god. Yeah, she has. I know.
I mean, like in the same city, like, so you must have traveled a bunch to see her.
Oh yeah, her new tour that's going on. I have front row tickets to 4 shows.
And what are the cities?
Like New York, 2 in Jersey, 1 in Connecticut.
Tri-state, that makes sense.
Yeah, because it's all quick driving within New York.
Yeah, it's only 4 hours away.
So then I'm being invited to sit across from someone who I have idolized and tell them all of the darkest thoughts that I have about myself.
God.
And I was like, oh, I want to get up. I want to run out of this room. I can't believe I'm going to do this. I'm just like, okay. So I look Alanis Morissette in the eyes and start rambling off all of the awful things that I think about myself, and she is saying them back to me.
Oh my God.
You are not the son I wanted you to be.
You are not the son I wanted to be. It's like 1,000 sons, but all you need is a stray one. Sorry, I'm just
awesome.
recreating what's going on.
Yeah.
So how does it go?
It was great. It was amazing. And I started to laugh at some of these things. I think was saying, you're not the son I wanted you to be. Like, I was like, I'm saying this to Alanis Morissette, who's saying it back to me. Like, this is ridiculous. And I just started laughing, and that, like, switched for me. And so then, like, we move on to the next phrase, and then the next phrase, and then the next phrase. And we're supposed to be, like, in the moment and present and saying what is on our mind and totally connected. And I go, I can't believe I'm sitting here laughing with Alanis. Dead silence. From her, from the other three people. No one says it back to me. They're supposed to be saying it back to me. I shit my pants.
Yeah.
And she looks at me, and she, like, put her hand on my knee, and she goes, I think it's great that you're sitting here laughing with me. And then we, like, went on to the next thing.
Man.
But I was like, oh, well, you know what? Too far. And then towards, so we're almost done with this story. I could go on about this for hours. So then, you know, she is someone who has spoken a lot about having some PTSD from being so famous in the 90s, and talked about people trying to, like, sneak up behind her and cut off snippets of her hair and, like, to sell it, and people trying to break into her hotel rooms. And so at the last day, there are all 90 some of us sitting in a circle in this tent, and a microphone is being passed from one of us to the next, like, share a moment or a memory or something about this that we want to, just to kind of, like, close up the ceremony.
Yeah.
And this guy stands up across from me, whatever, and he goes, so I knew that by coming here that I was going to be meeting my soulmate and my savior. And, you know, Alanis, you have been my guardian throughout the last few years, which, you know, at the time her newest single was called Guardian. I was like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, hack. And
you've been my guardian, available on Spotify and all streaming services.
And I want to thank you.
I want to thank you.
He just, like, throws in all these, like, words. He's like, this weekend's been a real jagged little pill for me. It's been a real ride.
And I've got one hand in my pocket. The other one's giving a peace sign.
And that hand is touching itself, sir. And he goes, and now I know that you're my soulmate and I'm supposed to be with you, but you're married and I don't know what to do with that. Oh, he said something else.
This is fucking crazy.
He said something else about how he's that's what it was. He said he's the reincarnation of God and she is supposed to be with him, but she's with someone else and he doesn't know what to do with that information.
And does everyone have to repeat that?
So we're all like, I'm the reincarnation, just making awkward eyes at each other. So, and in that moment, I was like, huh? I was like, wait, I, like, had to think about it for a minute, because my brain, like, could not comprehend what I had just heard.
Yeah.
And I just kind of, like, looked around, and Alanis just, like, shakes her head and says thank you, because she was saying thank you to everybody, and then it goes on to the next person. And I was like, how are you not, like, running out of this room right now? And then
you confessed your love to someone, saying that they're your soulmate, and they went, thank you.
And saying I'm the reincarnation of God. Like,
that's fucking, man, that's really rough.
And that was sort of when it hit me, like, oh, you sitting across from her and saying, I can't believe I'm laughing with Alanis is, like, probably fine.
Yeah, it's nothing. I'm sure she gets it all. It is a surreal experience, but you sort of, I think you built it up in your head more. Like, this is a therapist thing of, like, people aren't caring as much as you think they are.
Yeah, which is sometimes something I'll say to my clients too. Like, I know this seems really big to you, and it to important, but, like, most people are not paying attention.
From the outside, this is a nothing. Like, people are more concerned with themselves. Like, there's a guy at my job who's always convinced, like, people in the office are out to get him, like our operations department are out to get him, and it's like, nah, for a conspiracy to happen, people have to care, and most people don't care. Like, that's just what it comes down to. And I'm sure Alanis thought about it for a few minutes, like even that crazy thing that the guy said,
Mm-hmm.
and then she just moved on because she's heard that exact sentence probably like 10 times in her life.
Which is terrifying.
It's terrifying. I think celebrity is the craziest thing. Like I mean, I think we've talked about this before. Our friend Corinne is very like podcast famous, and like just I've seen people interact with her, and I've kind of been like horrified because they have the same like interaction that you would have with Alanis, where you're like apologizing for nothing. You're telling them that you remember meeting me in Pennsylvania like 2 years ago, and Corinne's like, no, I don't. I'm sorry. Like, why would I remember you? Or like she's very polite sometimes, and she'll be like, oh yeah. She'll sort of like lie about it, but it's like it's just really uncomfortable. And then I've been on the side of like just being on her podcast 4 years ago. I've gotten like I've dated people from it. I've hooked up with people. I've like, I've become friends with people, and that's just me appearing on something a little famous.
She needs more, gay listeners, because I've got none of that.
Really, you got nothing?
None of that.
I'm so sorry to hear.
Yeah, it's fine. You can have them.
but it is crazy to think about, like me just being like a sliver of a sliver of a sliver, and I've gotten like a taste of it, and I'm like, oh man, like I dated someone, and I've ruined my relationship because somebody messaged me, and I responded to it based off that. You know what I mean?
Oh. I was in Mexico. I was in Puerto Vallarta a few years ago, and I was walking down the beach by myself, leaving dinner, and two girls came up to me, and I thought they were going to ask me to take a photo of them, like because the sun was going down. I wanted like, hey, let's ask this random guy to take our photo, and they go, hey, are you Tommy?
Oh God.
And I was like, yes. And they're like, Corinne's Tommy? And
You're like, sir, your
yeah.
card has been declined. We're looking for Tommy.
I was like, yeah. And they're like, oh, we just wanted to say hi. And I was like, oh, hey.
So even in a different country, people know that you're Corinne's best friend and found you and told you that. Yeah, it's horrifying. I've had that experience too, where somebody knew me through Corinne and told me, but it was in like I was in Manhattan somewhere, and they were visiting Manhattan.
Someone once stopped and told me that they liked my sex ed videos on YouTube. And I was like, oh, good. And then I was like, how do you know about them? They were like, Corinne. And I was like, fuck. Well, fuck. Well, okay. I mean, good. So Roseanne and Dan are sitting across from each other, much like Alanis and I, and they don't really take it serious. And then Dan brings back up that Jackie is there all the time, and Jackie's like, I think there's some seriousness to this joke, and he's like, don't psychoanalyze me. And then Jackie says, well, Dan, if you had a job, you wouldn't even notice so much.
Yeah, because you wouldn't be home all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's something that I want to talk about on this show, because it does. Do you remember overhearing your parents fighting ever?
Yeah.
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 And
scary.
It's scary, and it's like I remember my parents fighting. They're still married, my stepdad and my mom. And I remember whenever I'd hear them fighting, there would be some nasty stuff said by both sides, and then I'd sympathize with the person who got the nasty thing said to them. And then there'd always be like a threat of divorce. I can live on my own. I don't need you. All this crap. And I remember the meanness of everything, and sort of being like, why do they have to be so mean? And now I get it, because I've had mean things said to me. I've said mean things to people, and I get it. That's just sort of a thing you do as a defense mechanism. But I think the show does that well, of showing people get defensive and get mean.
Yeah.
Do you remember anything that your parents ever said like that was mean?
To each other? No, not really. I just remember them arguing a lot. I remember my sister saying really terrible things to my mom after my mom had brain surgery.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Like
Kick her while she's down.
Yeah, like I wish you would have died during surgery.
Oh,
I hate you.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, things were not good for a while.
That's really heartbreaking shit to hear.
Yeah, and I was the youngest, so I was always terrified that they were like going to kill her.
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
As I laugh, I'm like, ha ha ha. And I guess one of the things that came up before that too is that Dan had just gotten, I believe he'd just gotten the phone call that he was not getting the job.
Yeah.
So Jackie saying that was really just kind of like twisting the knife.
Yeah, it really was. It's like a hat on a hat.
And then they go out to the garage, like Roseanne goes to see Dan in the garage and like wants him to get along with her sister, and then Jackie comes in and says she's going to a hotel. So one thing I noticed in the background is they have a cage with a rabbit in it.
Oh, like a live rabbit.
a stuffed rabbit.
Oh,
I think it's supposed to be a live rabbit, and it looks real, but then it doesn't move at all. And then when I like focused on it more, I was like, that's a stuffed rabbit. But I think it's supposed to be a real rabbit. And in a later episode, Becky like makes a reference to them like having a rabbit or something.
Have you? I mean, maybe it's a vibrator. She's talking about. Have you seen a rabbit before?
A rabbit vibrator or like a rabbit?
A rabbit.
Yeah, they're cute. I like them.
They don't move that much. I will say in general, unless they're like in a field.
Yeah.
Like in a cage, they just pretty much sit there. But I think you are correct. It probably is easier to get a stuffed one.
Yeah, like its eyes are just like black eyes and do not move.
Well, that's you're describing a rabbit. They're real death-like. Like there's nothing behind them. It's like that's a rabbit. Rabbits are the birds of the woods. Real reptile-like fucking eyes.
So Jackie comes in and she says, I just thought I'd tell you I'm going to check into a hotel. And Roseanne turns to her and goes, anyone we know?
It's good stuff. It's good stuff.
And then she yells at them that they need to get along. And then Jackie and Dan sort of, it's interesting the way that it's presented. And this changes later in the season, but it's sort of presented that like Jackie or Dan doesn't really know Jackie. But that like Jackie's around all the time, but it's just like Roseanne's sister.
Yeah.
And later on, you're gonna find out like they went through all of high school together. That Dan has known Jackie forever, and like that she's always
you get more backstory.
Yeah, you get more.
There's more history there, and that's why there's all this angst or whatever because they see each other as the same person from high school. Yeah,
and I mean, this is really when we start to see how much Jackie is a part of their life, and there are a couple times where Jackie and Roseanne have this exchange where they say you're just like mom.
Oof.
So it starts to sort of set up that both of them have some issues with their mother, which does become sort of more of the show that gets built on.
And the mother is played by Parsons.
Estelle
Parsons, who I've met before. She's incredible.
Yeah.
So I used to, for years and years, directly after college, I used to usher shows on Broadway, and I ushered shows specifically at the Music Box Theater, which is part of the Schubert organization, which has like, I don't know.
Oh, when she was in August Osage County?
That's exactly right. She was incredible. Did you see that play?
I did, and I loved it.
It's
and one of my friends stood outside when she was there and got me a signed copy of Bonnie and Clyde, because that was what she won. Didn't she win an Oscar for that? So I have a signed copy of Bonnie and Clyde from her.
So that's when she gets introduced eventually.
Yeah.
You know what season she gets introduced in Roseanne?
That is a really good question. I don't believe it's in the first season.
Yeah,
but I could be incorrect.
She's a great actress. She was really nice. The entire cast was really cool with us. So for Broadway shows, it really depends on the cast. We had a run of shows. I think we had 2 shows in a row where my favorite actor of all time, he was in Labette. He was in Jerusalem.
Who is this?
It's Mark Rylance.
Okay.
He's a big. You definitely recognize his face from maybe like a movie or 2. He was in Dunkirk. He was in Bridge of Spies.
He's war movies you like.
Well, yes, but he also is an incredible stage actor, and he's won like a couple of Tonys. He's just incredible. So he did 2 shows in, I don't know, consecutive, but like pretty close together at our theater, and he's the most like down to earth dude. He like insisted that we play cards in between shows on Saturdays, so we play like poker in between shows on Saturdays.
That's awesome.
And most casts do not interact with us. They like don't do it. So Mark Rylance was really cool. He did that, and then after his second show, because he had an apartment in like the West Village, him and his family, even though he's American, he like resides in England. Him and his family were moving back to England, and we had a cast party at his house, an opening night for one of the shows. We all went to his house in the West Village. It was very cool. And then we also so when he was moving back, when his show was over, his run was over in America, he donated a huge pool table to our like break room.
Wow. And
he inscribed it to the crew and stagehands and ushers of the Music Box Theater. Thank you for your friendship these last year and a half. You guys are great people, and me and my family will cherish it. Like something along those lines. Like very sweet guy.
That's awesome. And those are expensive. Like a nice pool table.
It's a really nice pool table. And granted, there's a piece of wood on top of it, so we could pitch it on top of it. But occasionally, it was taken off and played with. But he was really nice. And then when August Osage County came in, both crews were from like Chicago people, and they're all like very much like theater people. So they would interact with us, they chat with us. And the only person that I really didn't have interaction with in the 2 years like the year and a half it ran was Felicia Richard.
Interesting.
And I'm not saying she's mean, it's just she was more private.
Yeah.
Whereas Estelle Parsons would like BS with us. And
did you see that Laurie Metcalf is coming back to Broadway, starring with John Lithgow in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf?
Oh, interesting.
It's going to be awesome.
That is an interesting play. That's actually a good play.
Yeah.
Because a lot of old plays are like Tennessee Williams shit, and that sucks.
Yeah.
It actually is very bad, and it doesn't hold up very well.
I mean, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf is an awesome play.
I saw it in a Nathan Lane play, November with...
Oh yeah, I saw November.
Did you like that? I thought it was bizarre.
No, I thought it was boring.
It just wasn't funny either. It's supposed to be a comedy, and I wasn't laughing really.
I saw Hillary and Bill as well, or Hillary and Clinton.
Yeah, something like that.
Did not like it.
Wow. She's a great actress.
And I love her and did not like that show.
Yeah, interesting.
But Dollhouse Part 2 that she was in last year, fucking awesome. It was so good.
This podcast is just going to turn into theater talk.
Yeah, theater talk about Laurie Metcalf. Okay, so anything else from this episode that you think we need to really make sure that we touch on? I think, you kind of get a feel for Becky and Darlene fighting. They share a room. They want to do the tape down the middle of the room, which my sisters did when I was growing up.
It's a classic solution.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, doesn't work out ever. They're close in age. They just don't get, like, they're sisters, and they're very different. Like, Darlene's kind of the sporty jock one, tomboy, and Becky's like the fashion one that wants to be popular, and like typical kind of kids arguing stuff. Yeah,
it's pretty standard stuff. Overall, I thought it was a good episode. I liked the things that I hit on in my notes were just like I liked realistic arguing and like not meanness, but like deep cuts.
I mean, and that is what a lot of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf is.
Oh yeah, and that's a lot
like
of
they say
August
all this
Osage
shit,
County is just deep cuts.
Stuff that you would never say to someone you actually care about.
Deep cuts, yeah.
Or, I mean, hopefully wouldn't. Okay, so let's leave it there for now. You can follow me on Instagram at ThomasWhitfield84. You can follow the podcast at Lunchbox Lessons Pod. You can check out the website, lunchboxlessonspod.com, and then find us on YouTube. You can email us questions, lunchboxlessonspod@gmail.com. Send us your reflections of episodes if you're watching this with us.
You can call us on the phone.
You can call us on the phone. I mean, you can text. Any of that stuff, like, we would love to hear from you. Things that you remember about the show or things that we talk about, and then we'll talk about it on here as well. Justin, tell everybody where they can find you.
You can find me on Instagram at The Fartbox. You can find me at TikTok at The Fartbox Comedy. You can find me on Twitter at Justin Perez, and that is the only places you can find me.
Okay. We will talk to you next week.
I've got a confession and I wanna share it with you. I've learned a lot of lessons, I think maybe you'll learn some too. It's more like an obsession and I'm gonna force it on you.